Welcome to Grandpa and the Millennial. I'm Anthony Lopez, and I'm here with Natasha Cantrell. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm really excited for today. How's your week been?
Good. It's been a long week. I'm really excited for this episode, too. I think it'll be our best yet.
I agree. So not just the week, but I've been waiting for this for probably a couple months now.
Yeah.
We've been talking about it, and I know I've been talking to my friend. We have our first guest today, Jason Woodward, coming from Oracle, and he's been in leadership for over 30 years. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. And I would like to say congratulations on starting this podcast. I know you guys have had some hurdles getting it started and getting it up and running, but you've done a fantastic job. It's so exciting to listen to.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the pod.
Yeah, welcome to the pod. So I'm going to set the stage. We are in the studio, which is literally our kitchen table, Amy and my kitchen table. We are on our second bottle of wine, and we're going to have a great conversation around leadership today. And I just want to preface this. We're gonna end the show with our Inspire Thursday and talk about who inspired us or what inspired this week. And Jason has one as well. So stay tuned for that. But we wanted to jump right into the conversation. So, Jason, tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and then let's just jump into the storytelling.
Okay. Again, thank you guys for having me. Super excited. So to start talking about my background, when I was thinking about this and thinking about your guys' experience, one of the things I thought about is, Anthony, you had the military background. We've talked about that before, and I don't know if you know this or not, but I kind of come from a military background as well. My father was in the Air Force, spent 30 years there.
I did not know that.
Yeah, career officer. So I kind of know what that military background is like, and growing up in a military household. So that kind of gives me a foundation for a lot of who I am and whatnot.
Did you travel a lot? Or you go base to base?
When I was younger, we did. I wouldn't say a whole lot, like every couple of years, but I was fortunate enough that my dad was in a program. He was with the SR-71 program. And Beale Air Force Base had a big program there, and so he actually was able to spend a lot of his later part of his career there. So when I was about 12 years old, he got moved back there and stayed there for the rest of his career. So luckily, after that point, I was able to set some roots down and finish high school, finish elementary school, finish junior high, all in one location, which I hadn't done before, every 2 years moving around. So that was actually really nice.
Yeah, that is nice. I didn't know that. So thank him for his service. And
thank you for yours.
Yeah, being a military brat, it's not easy.
Yeah.
I was not one, but I've heard the story. So
yeah. So it's like, that gives me like the foundation. And, so to fast forward, to where we are right now, I know I'll tell my story, but, currently I work for a large software company, Oracle, and I'm in the real estate side, which is kind of the back office support for real estate, where we do lease administration, project coordination, and space administration. So kind of the gamut of the back office stuff. And I've been with Oracle for I think 23 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I've had a little bit of a vacation in midway through that, where I stepped away for about 4 years. But I've been in a professional environment for 30 years.
So when you were 12 years old, is this the job that you dreamed of doing?
That was my question.
God, that's a great start.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
That is such a great start. No, I'll get into that. No, this is not what I envisioned. That's so funny. When I was 12 years old, I was working at the golf course.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually started work when I was 12 years old.
At the golf course?
Yeah. Where my parents lived, there was a golf course, and I could get off the bus at the golf course, and I did that, and I was a little golf course rat, and the head pro probably got tired of me being there all the time, so instead of having to talk to me as a quote-unquote member or whatever, he thought, I'm just going to give this kid a job, and then I can tell him, get out of the shop, or go do this, or go do that, instead of loitering around. So that's what he did. So I actually started working when I was 12 years old at the golf course, picking up range balls, and kind of parlayed that into working at the restaurant, doing valet, doing golf course maintenance, everything I could around there. And the best part about that was I got free golf.
How long were you there?
My parents still actually live there. So I go back and I still love playing that golf course. But I worked at that golf. So I started at 12, and then I actually probably stopped my last year working there probably when I was 20 years old.
Oh, wow.
But there was a big gap there too, because when I was about 15, there was a grocery store that opened up in our neighborhood about 5 miles away, and I was given the opportunity to work at that grocery store. There was an opening. My mom drove me over there. I applied. I got a bagger position. I'd never worked in a grocery store before, but I had this experience of working with people, being at a golf course. You know, if you've been to a golf course, you can kind of, you know, imagine the banter that goes back and forth with, you know, the golfers and the workers and whatnot. And so, you know, I kind of picked up on that. And I think that really carried well when I was at the grocery store business, because I think I was, charismatic's not the right word, but just, you know, friendly. And
engaged.
And engaged, yeah. And so, you know, people come in, I'd greet them with a smile and say hello, and can I help you with anything? And kind of progressed through, you know, the owner of that store worked there. He had a small chain, local chain of grocery stores. And so I felt so blessed to have him as kind of somebody that was there to show me the business, especially being young and naive and not really understanding stuff. And this person really taught me how to work too. Like, as an example, I remember one time I was trying to stock shelves, and I had like my cart here and the shelf, you know, 2 or 3 feet behind me, and I'd grab some cans and then walk over there and put them on the shelf, come back, grab some more cans. He's like, "What are you doing?" Looked at me like, "You idiot. You know,
bring the cart
bring
closer.
your cart over here." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. That's so smart." You know, so just like opened my eyes to like common sense, you know, work habits, and, you know, really taught me how to work, but also took me under his wing too. And I think he trusted me, and I never wanted to let him down. I think that's one of the things through life that I've always thought about, that, you know, why do I do things, is I want to be successful, but I don't want to let people down. And so I think that's one of the things that, you know, he had so much trust and faith in me that I never wanted to let this guy down. So I was always working really hard to, you know, achieve whatever it was or do whatever he needed. And so he gave me lots of different opportunities to grow in his little grocery store chain. And I went from like a bagger to, you know, stocking the shelves, to learn how to check. And that was back in the old days where you had to punch in the numbers and be like, "Price check," you know, that kind of stuff.
We'll show you a picture.
Yeah, I was like, I can't relate, but I can picture it.
You count money, you know, all that kind of stuff.
I was going to ask how much you got paid, but I won't.
Oh, I can tell you. Do you want to know?
Yeah.
I got paid $2.50 at the golf course. And at that time, when I went to work at the grocery store, I was getting, I think, $3.50. And this guy wanted to learn how to play golf. And so after like 2 or 3 years, I negotiated a raise, but he threw in that I had to give him some golf lessons. So I was getting like maybe $4.25 or something like that. And that included golf lessons.
Sales early.
Yeah. You know,
Early.
yeah. But
You were rolling.
yeah. Let me go back to that. Like, seriously, that's why I started working at like 12, because, you know, I my parents gave me an allowance, but it was like $5 a month. You know, what are you going to get for $5 a month?
Yeah.
Nothing. So getting a job for me was huge, because, you know, another thing that motivates me is food.
I feel you.
And you know Jay's a foodie.
Yeah, so having some money in my pocket to be able to go buy whatever I wanted whenever I wanted it was huge. So, you know, $3.50 or $2.50 doesn't sound like a lot now, but when you're 12 and looking for a deli sandwich, it's perfect.
Yeah. And so do you still keep in touch with the gentleman from the grocery store? Do you remember him?
Oh yeah, not
remember him, but know him?
Yeah, I totally know him. I know his family. My mom sees him all the time. He still lives up in the area where I grew up. He's since sold his businesses and is a little bit older, and, you know, doesn't really get out as much anymore. But she still runs into him, and he asks me, you know, how I'm doing, and so we kind of keep in touch through the relationship through my mom.
That's incredible. When we talk about leadership and we have discussions about mentorship, just hearing that story, and what was that, 30 years ago? 40 years ago?
Come on now.
20 years ago?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Somewhere around there?
Yeah.
That there's still, you talk about him with such great fondness, but that you guys are still in touch. It just goes to show the impact that we can have on others and that he had on you.
Yeah, and he did. So, like, just to kind of further that story just a minute more, you know, he let me progress through and gave me the ultimate compliment that he let me manage his store as a 19-year-old. You know, I became the night manager, you know, as I grew through that, and like he'd leave at noon and kind of Well, he literally gave me the keys, gave me the store combo. I'd count the money at night and all that kind of stuff. So there was ultimate faith in him. And again, I'd never wanted to let him down. And that was one of the challenges too, working there as a young kid, having other young kids work at the store, thinking this kid's my boss. He's going to let me do whatever I want, or So it was really a great learning experience on how to set expectations with other coworkers being young or old, that stuff was not going to be got away with just because he was gone and it was me managing the store. But when I moved on, I was in college and I was looking to further my management skills and develop my professional skills. I had an opportunity to kind of continue in the grocery business, and I got an opportunity to be a store manager at Safeway through an internship program, and he helped me get that as well. Like he reached out to the contacts he had and gave me the great letter of recommendation, like literally wrote a wonderful letter of recommendation. So he was a big guiding light in my development of who I am professionally and as a person, as a leader too.
What a foundation. What's his name?
Amos Segezi.
I'm not going to try. I'm not going to try to repeat that.
It's Amos. His store was named Amos. Anybody that listens to this from Grass Valley, Nevada City will know Amos.
I think we have a huge following in Grass Valley. I'm kidding.
You will soon if you don't now.
Yeah.
And so what about during that time? Were you going to school? Were you putting yourselves through school? Or what was happening?
Yeah, so when I was working at his grocery store, I was still in high school. I was trying to think if I got off the bus to get off the high school there or not. I remember, because I was 15 when I got the job, I couldn't even drive. I remember when my parents would go out of town, I literally had to ride my bike, across the major Highway 20 to get to the store, in my parka on my 10-speed bike, So that was high school. And
Hold on a second.
yeah,
For those that don't know Jason, he's 6'7",
yeah.
and you on a 10-speed is just hysterical.
It's probably too small too. Like picture the knees outside. Like, yeah.
Oh, we need a picture.
Someday, maybe. But I think maybe my first year of college, I came back and worked for him too. But then after that, I was working for Safeway. But that kind of reminds me of another little tangent too, and talking about education and school and whatnot. Kind of another guiding, something that I still think about today that kind of guided my path to where I am perhaps. I remember having a meeting with my high school counselor when I was, I think, a junior in high school. And I never really studied or worked hard in high school. Things came somewhat easy, so I just never studied, and I got decent grades. Not great grades, but at that point I didn't care. It wasn't like our kids today where like, you can't, just pushing and pushing and pushing. I just never had that push from back home. But so I went and talked to this counselor, and I told him that I wanted to be a veterinarian. And you asked me earlier, like, what was your vision when you were 12? Like, that was one of the things that I thought. I always, I loved animals. I'm like, I'd like to help animals. I'd like, I'd like to be able to pursue that. And so this guy looked at my transcripts, and like I said, I never worked too hard. He's like, you don't have what it takes.
Oh,
I can tell you right now, that's a really tough profession, and you don't have what it takes. So you should probably start thinking about something else. And I was like, what? And has obviously stuck with me ever since. And it was a message that maybe was a reality check, maybe a good message, but also a message like, you don't know who I am. Like, I don't even know what I'm capable of yet. I haven't even tried. And that's kind of what I thought in my mind too. I'm like, how do you know? Like, I literally I don't feel like I've tried.
So how has that changed in the way you communicate to people that come with you with an idea or a dream? Because I can feel the passion. It stuck with you.
Yeah.
Did it change the way you communicate to others?
Absolutely. I shut them down as quick as I can.
I
said, I want to be just like that guy.
Not the direction I thought we were going to go.
Sorry. No, I'm kidding.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. No, it has, well, it guided me. I mean, it changed the way I did a lot of different things. It motivated me when I was in college, and I figured out how to actually study. After my first year of college, being in the dorms, you kind of run amok. But after that, I just remember thinking about that and just going, no way, I'm not gonna fall into what he said. I'm gonna study. I'm gonna figure out how to study. And at that point forward, I never got less than an A. and I got into all kinds of honor stuff and blah, 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 blah. But it did not only change that part of me, but also I think you take in some of that and think, I don't ever want to do that to somebody else and sell them short and, not give them an opportunity. If they think that they can do it or want to do it, there's a better way to drive possibly or direct somebody without crushing a spirit or a dream. And so I think there's great value in adding advice and suggestions without crushing somebody or I shouldn't say crushing because that's, kind of hard, but, hurting somebody.
Yeah, and be encouraging.
You want to be motivating.
Yeah. Is that, so in the moment, that one was a little bit more abrupt, like, no, you can't do what you want to do. So that sticks with you. But as you reflect, so looking back at the grocery store and the leadership there, is it like in the moment, did you know how impactful it was? Or is it something you've like reflected on and were like, wow, he really impacted my life?
I remember thinking he was somewhat harsh, but also realizing that that's just who he was and that he didn't treat me any different than anybody else. And I felt like he was taking me under his wing, and I knew that the responsibilities that he was giving me was more than he would give people twice my age that had been working for him a lot longer. So, he was impactful to me right off the bat because I think I saw that he trusted me and wanted me to do the best that I could. So I didn't want to let him down.
And do you take that experience in your leadership and working with people? And I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this question, but knowing that there was an expectation from him and that you wanted to live up to it. Do you see that in your leadership style when you're working with people? Or do you recognize that people see you that way? Or like, I know Natasha and I are both leaders. We talk about, like, I don't see myself that way. I see the guy that you see when we go out on the golf course and have a good time. I don't see the guy that's in the office, but other people see us different. How do you see yourself?
Just like you're describing, like I don't see myself that way, but I see myself trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, and try to be encouraging. And I've had other work stories where I think if you have a bad experience or a bad leader or something like that, there's always something you can take away from it. You can take away the negative side of it and go like, God, that guy was so horrible, or that experience was so bad, and blah 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 blah. Or you can take away and like, I'll never do that to anybody else. I'll never treat anybody like that, and I will go above and beyond to try to give them that fair shake. And so I think that that's kind of the way I manage people or deal with people, interact with my teams, is that I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to set them up for success. And I think that that's maybe something that he did for me from the get-go, is try to, show me the ropes and give me boundaries and set me up for success. And, so I've tried to take that and grow with that and try to use those same parameters to help, people around me grow.
And where did that come from? Is it from experience? Is it self-taught? Did you go through training in all these organizations? Where
are you better now than you were, then?
I don't know. No, but I think about that, and I think, some people say like, you're born a leader. Maybe some people are, but I know that experience-wise, I don't think that I could ever say that. I think to me, it's like learn and earn. Like leadership, you learn and earn it. Like you have to kind of experience it, and maybe you make a few mistakes along the way, and you say to yourself, okay, I'm not going to do that again. But I think that that's always kind of been the way that I've been brought up. Is Amos taught me certain things. I've taken away from the experiences that I've had at work that were negative and said I'm never going to treat somebody like that. I've tried to present something and see that it didn't come across the right way. You guys talked about the why, and being able to talk to somebody and communicate them knowing their why, and to have them, benefit from that. And so, I think that's something you take away too, is to try to figure out how to connect with people, to keep them motivated, to keep them growing, and to keep that relationship strong. So, I don't know.
No, it's great. It's powerful. So continue. So
I think you're in college. Did you graduate?
Yeah.
Did you graduate?
Shoot, yeah.
Natasha brings us back.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I don't know which road I was going down there. Yeah, so went to college. Like I said, I figured out how to study. After my freshman year, I didn't totally flop my freshman year, but my freshman year, I set myself up thinking this is going to be fun. I'm in the dorms. I'm away from home. I just got to do my schoolwork. I'll be fine. And so I set my classes up Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like starting at 2 p.m. and like had some night classes. And God, that is such a recipe for failure. And I struggled really, really hard with that the entire year. And I thought it was a cool schedule at first, but then I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So the next year I did the exact opposite, and it was complete success where I started at 8 o'clock, finished by 11 o'clock, had 3 classes, so I took the classes I could take as many times a week as I possibly could. And the other thing that I found out that really, really helped me was exercise. And so I started taking PE classes. And so every day I'd end with a PE class. And it was either basketball or golf. Not that golf was super stressful or whatever, but it was still a release to get out and get some sunshine and, do something. And then I'd go home, take a shower, and I'd study for 3 or 4 hours or whatever it was. I'd be done by 4 or 5 o'clock at night every night and have the rest of the night do whatever I wanted to. And my roommates would still be at school. They'd still be doing homework. And so I'm like, that was my recipe for success. So I found out something that worked for me. So I did end up graduating. I ended up realizing that I was really close to kind of a double major. So I stuck around for an extra year and got double credentialed or double majored. I did finance and accounting. And I was super lucky because I did have good grades, and I was offered an opportunity to be in I was never in a real fraternity. My friends were, so I got the benefit from that. And my friends were also on sports teams, so I got the benefit from that. So I never really felt like I needed to go that direction. But I was offered a honors accounting fraternity. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience in the sense that, you think you want to do certain things. Well, this organization showed you what it would look like to do those things, bringing you to the accounting firms, brought speakers in. So I really kind of learned what it was like to be, professional at that early age and what it could be like, working a day in the life of. And so I actually got offered a job a year before I graduated. So my last year of school was really, really fun because I didn't have to stress too much. So when I graduated, I went to work for a Big Six accounting firm. And that's kind of like, I called it financial boot camp, because you work long hours. You're just constantly learning about finance, accounting, interacting with CFOs, controllers, organizational people, controls, just like the nuts and bolts of like business, books,
Paying
stuff
your
like
dues.
that. Paying my dues big time. And we talk about being like a first year, like CPA at a Big Six accounting firm. You pay your dues in the copy room. You think that I'm smart and I'm going to go sit in front of these guys. Nope. They give you a binder and say, go make copies. So you become really proficient at that.
I think, do they still do that? I haven't seen a copy room in a while.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. When I got hired, they told me to fax something. I was like, I'm actually confused. I didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
So they had
my God.
They had to help me.
Seriously, the copy machines were beasts back then too. Like I remember one like the size of this table, and you're like, what am I gonna do here? And like you break it or jam, and you're at a client site, and you're like, oh boy. But you kind of become oh yeah, that's the 8102. I'll fix that, and get in there.
That's intense work.
Yeah, life has gotten a lot easier.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I did that for a few years. I became like a first level manager after my second year, and so I was then supervising jobs and managing, leading the jobs. And so I had a few different auditors or a few different staff accountants that would be on the jobs with me, and I'd kind of organize those. And so that was kind of like really beyond the grocery stores, my first leadership type positions, management type positions.
Let's talk about it for a minute. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you, was that Some people, I think, kind of transition or progress into those positions by just nature of they think that's what comes next. So was the actual leadership, like being supervising people and that aspect, what you wanted to do, or was it just something you kind of found yourself in and
No.
then maybe learned from there?
Both. I mean, that was the natural progression of that industry and that career path that you would, eventually, manage a small team, and then you'd, manage the engagement, then you'd manage a portfolio and that sort of stuff. So the responsibilities would continue to grow. Mm-hmm. So I knew that's what I was getting into. So when I started the job, I was kind of like, okay, when am I going to get to manage a team? When am I going to, manage a job? So I was kind of looking forward to it, but it was also just kind of the way that the job progressed.
And what kind of training did you have going from that first year into did they just dump you in there, or was it, what was it? What did it look like?
I was actually really blessed in that sense too. So, I mean, I talk a lot about experience, and I had wonderful experience in, working with the golf course, working with the grocery stores in terms of managing people and dealing with people. But when I started my internship with Safeway, they had a wonderful management program. And so they actually had, binders of stuff that I had to go through and tests that I had to take and that sort of stuff. And Ernst & Young was the same way. I mean, it's a world-class organization, so they don't blind you, throw you into anything. You go through tons of training on how to do your job, training on, just about anything and everything you wanted. So there was a progression of training as well, which helped.
Yeah, that's exceptional, because we've seen throughout my career, where one day you're a selling agent and the next day you're leading a team, and you have to figure it out on your own. I've seen both sides of the spectrum, so that's good to hear.
Yeah. I think a lot of it comes from experience, though. I mean, because you can only get so much from a book or watching a instructional video or something like that. I mean, it's trials and tribulations and failures and successes that you build upon.
Without a doubt, I would ask the question: have you learned more from your failures or from your successes?
That's a really good question. I think the failures stick with you longer, and you don't want to do those again. I mean, so when I think about interacting with people, and oh boy, that's a tough one, because I've had the extremes on both sides. Like I've tried to allude to, had horrible experiences with work situations where I say, I'm never going to do that to somebody. I'm never going to treat them like that. And so I go out of my way to make sure that I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to hear the full story. I'm going to explain it 3 or 4 different times I have to. I'm never taking the credit for anything that, those sort of things, that sort of stuff. And the successes are also really rewarding too, where you're like, that went really well. I have to remember that. I have to remember how I approached that. So, I mean, I don't know if I can say one way or the other, because I think they're both great learning points.
I think it's a good answer.
I do too. Yeah. I'm just thinking back through my experience. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
So before we go on continue on your journey, just sitting on the failures and successes, when you think about those, what's a failure that you can share with us, and what you learned from it, and then a success that you can think of that you learned from?
Okay. In one of my little work journeys, I started a new position, and it was not a stretch role for me, but it was something different. Like I had done that type of work before, but not like in the trenches. And I had a small team that was working for me. I shouldn't say working for me. There was in my group. And I think I took too much for granted that they knew more than they did, or that they were, that I could just slot in without really working very hard, without creating that relationship, without really setting a vision, expectations, and communicating. All those things that you think about that would be kind of like a leader move.
Yeah.
I think I just kind of came in, and maybe at my boss's level, I had that communication, but with the people that I was doing the work with, I didn't. And I don't think I ever forged that relationship with them. And I don't think that I ever both ways got enough out of that work experience that I could have. And so if I could go back in time, I would have really liked to set that table a lot better and set expectations and relationships a lot better. And so to the opposite side of that, I think I learned from that. And a future role that I took, I came at an organization much larger, and it was a total mess. And much more different from the other environment that I just told you about that was actually running along pretty well. This one came in as a total mess. People were upset with each other, upset with management, upset with just the work in general. And so I had a train wreck on my hands. And I think, it was kind of like one of those things like, holy moly. I still felt comfortable because I was comfortable with the work that needed to be done, the vision that needed to be done, and actually knew some of the people that I was working with. So I took that opportunity just to kind of level set. And I had meetings with everybody and understood where they were coming from, what their challenges were, what was wrong with the current situation, what could have been done better. And I did that with everybody. And I did it a couple different times and had multiple meetings. And, you learn from that. And you learn, what the why, why people are doing what they're doing or hate what is going on, and how can I fix that and change that. And so it took a little bit of time, but, built up the trust with these folks and, did some social events as well. And just, trying to get to know people and build things on a little bit more of a personal level, which I think really helps too. I mean, if you're in a huge organization, it's obviously hard to get on a personal level with everybody. But I think, even with your direct managers or, the people that you directly supervise, it really helps to kind of understand them to that level where you can then, understand that why and communicate and motivate better. So I think that that's something that I did that was very successful, and that I would probably try to do again if I was put in a situation like that again. Or I think about if I go into new situations, it's good to understand the bigger picture and set expectations and try to ensure that you have a commitment from your team and an understanding from your team going both ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, for me, it resonates because I've been put in a lot of, I think, positions where, whether it's a team, like you said, I may not have been familiar with the work that they were doing, but now I'm in this position where it's my responsibility, So I think I had to learn to be okay with getting to know them, getting to, build the trust, figure out what they were doing, and not have all the answers. And so I think that's where you lean on your past experiences to know, hey, at least this is what I can bring to the table, get with them, and then you just move along together. So yeah. Makes sense.
Yep. And then it's a fun journey from there.
Yeah.
Then you just ride the bumps together.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So where were we? Where were we in your journey?
Let's see.
Tasha, where were we?
You graduated.
Yeah. I was working for Ernst & Young.
Oh, yes.
And I did that for a couple of years. And again, going back to your point, like, is this what you thought you were going to do when you were 12 years old? I think maybe I was starting to find a niche because, obviously I studied that in college. I was comfortable doing it.
The vet was still a no-go, though, that you're just done with.
Gosh, I think about that. Like, if I go back in time, would I do it all over again, knowing what I know now? I have two thoughts on that. I would still love to do that because I still have a passion for animals, still love them, would love to help them. But I've had a wonderful life, and I don't know if I'd want to change or miss out on anything that I've done to this point. And so probably not. Just let's stick with what I've got because I really enjoy and love what I have.
Yeah.
That's deep. We could dive into that. We'll keep rolling.
Maybe turn off the mics, have another bottle of wine. We'll figure it out.
Get the good stuff.
Yeah. So let me see. So where I was. When I was there, you talk about people that influence your life, or think about people that influence your life. And I was lucky enough to come across an individual that steered my life significantly. Not only just a great friend, Anthony, this is something you and I have talked about. I think kind of the relationship that you and Natasha have, where you're able to just sit back and talk like this and have these great conversations. This was somebody that was a couple years older than me. He was one of my managers when I was doing these audit engagements. And he and I would sit at a table just like this, finish the nights because we'd work into the nights and, kind of shut it down and just have these great conversations about life, what makes you happy, where you see yourself in a couple of years, what's it going to take for you to retire, all these wonderful, wonderful things. So not only a great person just to, have conversations with, but just a really, really good mentor at work too. The dude had his stuff together. He was so organized. You talk about like how on Sunday nights you write a list of things you want to do. And, he was that same type of person. And he would not only do that, but he'd write a list of things he wanted you to do. But like, Monday, you're going to go look at this and figure out this for me. So I'd get on to work on Monday morning and he'd have a playlist for me of like what to do. And then it was just, it was so awesome to learn from somebody like that. That was so just put together in every aspect of it. And this dude had it so dialed in, he didn't last too long at that company because other companies picked him up and wanted him. And he ended up being a CEO of multiple publicly traded companies. And just a great, great friend and resource throughout the years. But I had another friend like that too, very similar. And he left the company and he hired me. He went to go work for a private company and said, hey, public accounting is not where it's at, man. Come work for this private company. We'll be over here. And actually, it was a publicly traded company. So I had started as an assistant controller. I left after a couple years of public accounting and went into this other company. And that didn't last too long because I at that point was just getting married. We just bought a house in Rockland. And this company that I just started working for decided to move their headquarters to Colorado, out in Broomfield, which is like between Boulder and Denver, kind of in the middle there. And went on a house hunting trip out there, and I'm like, hey, man, I can't afford anything out here like that I just bought here locally. And we're, all our friends and families here. So at that point, a couple of my friends that I'd worked with at Ernst & Young had already jumped shipped and were working at Oracle. And the house that we had just purchased was in a brand new development up there. The roads weren't even finished to certain areas, but there's this big building there that they were building near our house. I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, man, that'd be so cool. Instead of driving the commute that I had at that point, instead of driving an hour each way, just to have, if that was a business, if I could just work there. Lo and behold, it turns out it's Oracle. And lo and behold, like I just said, I have a couple friends that were working there, and I was able to get in the door there and get a job there. And so literally I was able to walk to work at some points. And so then I transitioned to Oracle, and I started a career at Oracle, and that was almost 25 years ago. So it's been like I said, I did take a little bit of a break at Oracle. I worked for 10 years, took a break from Oracle, did like the nuts and bolts accounting again for a company as an assistant controller somewhere. And then I really wanted to get back to Oracle because it was an exciting company to work for, and I had a great opportunity to come back. So that kind of gets us, I fast forwarded 25the's years, but gets us up to where we are now.
There has to be some good stuff in there.
There really is. There's the goods and the bads in there. I mean, I obviously left at one point for a reason, but came back because there's so many great things too.
Well, let's dive into leadership. Let's ask some leadership questions. And
Oh, I have one. I always have one. So you have had some mentors that have been very impactful.
Yeah.
Have you been a mentor to, somebody specifically or multiple people? I mean, you have your team, right? You lead, but I think sometimes there's like a deeper connection when it's like a true mentor. So do you think that you are that person have been that person for somebody else?
I'd like to say yes, but I mean, kind of like you were saying, Anthony, where you're just having conversation and you don't necessarily know how people are perceiving you. Mm-hmm. I'm having meaningful conversations and relationships with people that I work with that I hope is kind of taking that same way. And hopefully I'm doing a service to them and mentoring them, but, nothing where it's kind of like beneficial, but it's, I could say that, talking to younger people and trying to give them guidance and steer them, I would hope that it's the same thing. And I try to come from the perspective that I'm trying to describe of, knowing the things that I've gone through, trying to help set them up for success. That's always what I want to do. That's like a big motivational factor for me, is to try to help set success.
Yeah, it's so interesting. It's a great question. And so as Natasha and I have gone through this journey and talked about we're going to do this podcast for our company. We decided to do it on our own. But you and I had a conversation. I had a conversation with one of our other friends, Mike Portello. You and I had a couple conversations, probably over some drinks, sitting at CJ's bar. But you encouraged me. You were a mentor. You're just encouraging. So you don't know how you have an impact on someone that you had on me, which then I had on Natasha to say, just go for it. Like, this is a great conversation.
That's
go
awesome.
do this. So I'm confident that you have other people in your life that you're doing this with as well. And so I say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for that feedback, and I'll try to motivate you to do some other things.
Yeah. I want to go back to the mentor that you were talking about, their mentors that when you'd have those great conversations. So, when I think through the different people that I've led and been able to impact, how do you teach somebody to be that mentor? So that person, what they were to you and the impact that they had on their life, how do you pass that on to somebody? Like, I'm trying to pass it on to Natasha. We've had these conversations. How do you pass it on?
Well, you have to find the right person. And that person, it has to happen. I think it has to happen organically. I mean, you could definitely set out to be a mentor for somebody and try to write the script and have, steering meetings. But my guess is you guys probably are doing stuff like this all the time, and it happens organically, where you have an opportunity, you're working together, and there's a situation where you just shoot the breeze about something and realize that that's a really good conversation. And maybe you've had the experience because you're the grandpa, and you've been through that before, and you can help. Hey, I did this before and it didn't work, or this worked out really great. Maybe try that. So I think those things kind of have to happen a little bit more organically. I don't think you can force it on somebody. They have to want it. I think it has to go both ways.
Yeah, agreed. You and I are close in age, and
well, thanks.
You're not a grandfather yet, but Natasha's the millennial. I'm fascinated with the questions that you have for Jason and for both of us, but from your perspective after hearing the story.
Oh, you want me to ask a question?
Yeah, I'm interested in the other side.
Set me up. Okay, so first, I appreciate how genuine you seem. Very, very grateful. Like, you acknowledged that you've been. I think you used the word blessed with some of this. So I think it's very fascinating. I love these conversations because there's the thing. I love a good book, love a good podcast, all of that. But then there's like the real life, no bullshit, like leadership stuff. That is something that I've had to learn, and you learn it by experience. So. I love the insight there. So my questions would be around, through the journey, any like major, learnings or surprises, whether it's in business or it's in leadership. Anything, if you look back at the whole thing, if you could sum it up in like one or two major lessons, what would it be? That's such a question. Yes. So I told you.
Anthony, I think you should stick with the question from now on.
I'm sorry, I gotta learn all this real quick.
My goodness sakes. To try to sum up some of that, again, I think it's tough to, or at least for me, I think it's tough to take away certain attributes from reading something. So experiencing is the best way for me. I'm a visual learner. So that's probably the reason why I say I'd like to experience it first, and take a lot away from those experiences. And the tip that I would give there is that, and I mentioned it before, but like in every situation, there's two ways to look at it. And you can approach every situation in one of two ways. And either you take something away from it positively, or you look at it as a bad experience and it's negative, and dwell on it or however you want to. But I think you have to take something away from each of those experiences and learn from those. And you can definitely learn from the negatives. So to try to sum up leadership, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah.
Yeah. As I said before, you earn it, or I had to earn and learn it.
Yeah.
It's just, you can understand the concepts, and I think those concepts are great to have in mind when you're going through and trying to become a better leader, because you're focused on those sort of things. And I think the way you become a better leader then is thinking about those different concepts and ideas and putting them into place and building upon those experiences, and just continuously getting better.
Yeah. Application of it, not just to
Yes.
learn it. Yeah,
Yes,
you have to do
absolutely.
it to be about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So I
Don't
know-
pressure me with those eyes of like, ask a question.
So I know your background. Married, kids, you want to tell everybody? So I have a question around
yeah.
family and leadership.
Okay. Yep. I'm married, and I've got 2 boys. One is 21, getting ready to be 22 very soon. The other one just turned 20, both in school right now.
Congratulations. Exciting.
Yep. No grandkids at this point.
That you know of.
Goodness sake.
Kidding. So as you've gone through your journey, as every leader does, there's stresses and pressures that come along with that. How did you keep that separate from bringing it home?
I think it's impossible. I mean, that's a really, really good question. I've got a couple different thoughts on that. I think at one point, because I worked so close to the office, and the pandemic has definitely brought this home for a lot more people. There's not as much separation from work and home, so you can walk from one room and just be in your work situation where things could go completely south and you're having a horrible day, and you walk out in the next room and your family's out there and they just got back from the best day ever and they're super excited, and you just want to go punch a wall, and you don't have that opportunity to decompress. But yet that's the side that they see of you right away, and they're like, what's wrong? So I mean, I think that there's definitely challenges with that. And I know that at some points in my career, I struggled with situations at work that I would come home either stressed because I was stressed about trying to figure something out, or stressed because of a situation that may have happened, and just, not happy with that and trying to deal with it. And so I would do my best to try to separate that, but that didn't always happen. So I made a change, and that's honestly one of the reasons why I left Oracle in the first place. When I took that little vacation from Oracle's, because I couldn't get a good separation, and I wasn't happy with things that were going on. And so I went and found something different. And I found something different that gave me a commute, fortunately or unfortunately. So I had that separation, though. If I had a bad day at work, I had an hour commute. And I would unwind. By the time I got home, I was so excited to see the family. And at that point, my boys were little, and it was so fun to come home. I'd open the door and, Dad! And it was just so different and so wonderful. So it was easier in that sense to separate. But I knew that that's something that I had to do. And it's something that I consciously think about all the time now, that I have to figure out how to do that. And, I think I deal with work situations possibly a little bit better now than I did back then as well. Just mature a little bit more and understand, how to deal with things, and how to compartmentalize maybe a little bit more. Now I'm working at home again, but the boys are older. Renee works at home most days now, but it's a lot different. It's a conscious thing that I do think about because of the past.
Yeah, so the title is Grandpa and the Millennial, and we do this because we have different perspectives, different age here. So if you were going to tell somebody, a couple generations below, and even I don't know what the generation is before Millennial. Can you help me out?
Before?
After?
After? I don't know.
So the next generations.
I only care about myself.
There we go. True Millennial. So if you were to tell your younger self 30 years
Your
ago.
30-year-old self. That was my question.
Oh, go. Ask the question.
Your 30-year-old self.
Yeah.
What would you, if you could just talk to him, piece of advice or whatever, have a conversation, what do you think it'd be about?
I think it would be like in terms of leadership.
It could
or
be
just
life,
like life in general.
leadership,
Yeah.
anything.
I think it's to try to not get so caught up in the moment. Not, I mean, you definitely want to live in the moment, but sometimes you can get so spun up around certain things. To maybe take a step back and to take an opportunity to look at the bigger picture, the bigger why, your broader goals, and to not get so lost in a certain transaction moment in time, and to know that there's more ways to skin a cat, and you can there's alternatives and other things that you can do to solve a situation and to not get so worked up. So to be more patient and think through things a little bit more, maybe.
And would you have listened to that advice at 30?
Not if it was coming from me.
You'd hear it.
I'd be like,
Easier said than
Yeah,
done.
I'd be like, God, who is this guy? What does he know?
So this has been incredible. Anything else that you want to share, say, around leadership, life,
Or questions for us.
or questions for us?
We've been grilling you.
Well, I know. I feel like I could ask you questions, but the great thing is you have this wonderful podcast, and I've been listening to your podcast and enjoying it. And when I do listen to it, and you'll go down a road and you'll talk about something, I'll be like, yeah, that's exactly what I would do, or that's what I think, or that's a different perspective. And so, I think you guys have done a wonderful job covering a great set of topics so far, and you're setting up a wonderful platform. So. I'm looking forward to just listening to more of the conversations and the interactions. You guys do have a great dynamic. So looking forward to seeing it grow. I don't have any real specific questions because, like I said, I'm kind of listening to you guys banter out a lot of it, but I do enjoy it.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the feedback. We get a lot of feedback, and I love it. So thank you for coming in. We want to do Inspire Thursday. We put it at the end.
Yeah.
So I'll kick it off. And then we'll have Jason go.
Yeah.
Actually, I have one more question for you, Jason.
Oh boy.
So Jason's nickname is Woody. So where did the nickname come from?
Last name's Woodward. So it was just a derivative of Woodward.
Just
Yeah,
that
Woody.
simple.
But it's funny. I don't know if my dad got called Woody very much, but I think my grandfather did. And at some point, probably early on in high school, that somebody picked up on that, and it just is carried through forever. I mean, one of my boys has also been kind of nicknamed Woody as well, but I mean, it was so prevalent that that's what my name tags used to say. Were Woody. I mean, so like everybody just knew me as Woody. Like some people would be like, "Hey, Jason," they're like, "Who's Jason?" Oh, you mean Woody?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I call you Jason. That's why I was like, I call him Woody when we're not on air. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew the answer to the question or if you were just really curious. I thought there's going to be a grand story.
God, I
but
wish there was something so much
I
better
know.
than
I
that.
was like, oh,
Yeah.
last name? All right.
Yeah.
So Inspire Thursday. I will go first. So my inspiration for not just this week, but for the last 25 years is Amy, my wife. She is an incredible woman. She takes care of the entire family. She's definitely taken care of me. She's been supportive through this entire process. She's running a lot of the social media. She's upstairs right now with our dog, and she'll come down here and have a couple of drinks when we're done. But just an incredible wife, incredible mother, friend, sister, aunt, all of the different names. Grandma, yes. I'm married to a grandmother. She's an incredible woman. So that's my inspiration for this week. So, awesome. Woody, you.
All right. Well, I feel like I've been talking a lot, but I have a little bit of a story for my inspiration. So I used to run a lot. It used to be part of my daily routine, and it was therapeutic for me, as motivational. I would be able to solve my daily problems and think through things, and it was just health-wise, mental-wise, physical-wise, it was just a thing that I did that I loved. I mean, like people that work out, kind of get their endorphins going. And so I'd go for these runs every morning. It was fantastic, and did this forever. And one day I was at Costco, and I was shopping, pushing the cart, and it's crazy at our local Costco. And this scares me to this day because of this. I got Achillesed. Somebody not paying attention just rammed me with their shopping cart into my Achilles. And my Achilles were probably already sore from running so much, but it swelled up like a big egg on my back of my Achilles. And so I ended up going to the doctor, and it almost ruptured. So I got put in a boot for months, and I couldn't run. I couldn't get that, that endorphin, that thought process, the meditation type stuff. I missed that. So when I finally got healthy again, I tried to start running again. I was feeling like a grandpa. My knees were hurting, my back was hurting, and just never really kind of got in that jam again. I couldn't figure it out. And lo and behold, fast forward like a year, I put on a bunch of weight, kind of, depressed, whatever. We go out with a bunch of friends. We go rent this house somewhere, and we talk about some of these things, and we talk about, being healthier and trying to exercise more. And we decide we're all going to get into this, chat with each other to motivate each other and to inspire each other. And so we did that. And this was months ago. And to this day, every day, this group chat gets on and motivates each other, inspires each other with something that we've done, like the exercise first thing in the morning, or, they ate something right, or walked the dog, or whatever it is. And Anthony's a big piece of that. So Anthony was part of this. And like, I've heard you guys talk about, like, Anthony gets up at 4:00 in the morning or whatever God time it is. But he does that. He does his exercise and then starts texting us like at 5:00 in the morning on this little group text. And so I get the, like, what is that noise? And it's Anthony going, hey, I finished my 3 miles already. Get up. And Amy's the same way. Right after that, Amy's like texting us. She's walking, Savvy. I kept on saying Saffra, but Savvy. Walking Savvy. And I'm like, God dang it, if they can do it, I can do it. So it's motivated me to get back on, and now I do a bunch of power walks. So I can't run anymore because it still just hurts, but I do my power walks, and I've like reinvigorated with that energy and with that exercising, and it's helping with motivational stuff and the mental side of it as well. So you guys are my inspiration there.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you. So it is a group chat. I think there's 8 to 10 of us on there, and everybody motivates me as well. So that's awesome.
I've actually heard about this chat you shared. So he might send you the text. I'll have like a motivational video, and I'm like, Anthony, I know that, you're in mile 3 when you're listening to this, and like, I'm in the Starbucks drive-thru, but I'm still listening. Yeah. So I've heard about the famous group chat, so that's really cool.
Yeah, it's exclusive. You have to apply for membership.
Okay, calm it down. We have the pod. That's good enough. My turn. So my inspiration this week. It's really really been throughout my life, but I'm going to go with my grandparents. Specifically my Nana. My papa's passed away, but they were absolute blessings in my life. Like, I'm super close to my grandparents. They're more like more like parents to me, but they took in my siblings and myself and my mom when I was like 10 years old. So we've been super close, and just to watch them, they taught me a lot about hard work, a lot about family, a lot about love, right? I watched them love a lot of us through some things. Sometimes that love was tough, but it was there. And so just always been there. It's the support. It was the house. The doors never locked. I think there was 12 of us there at one point. And it was wild days. But my grandma now, she's living her best life. She's retired, moved back to her home in Mississippi. She'll probably kill me, but she's on a dating app or two. And cool. She'll send me every morning, you get the text, love you, thinking about you. She's on the beach, or she's, at the like whatever she's doing, but she's happy. And she's just been, I don't know where I'd be without her. So that's mine. Cool. Love you, Nana.
We're getting into that story of 12 at some point.
Oh, I don't know if you want to, but okay.
That is a great inspire. So I think this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for coming, Jason. We're going to finish this bottle of wine.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys so
fantastic.
Much for hosting me and inviting me. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. First guest.
Yes.
I love it. Appreciate the support. Absolutely appreciate it. So.
Right. Gramps, Jason, and the Millennial out.
Yeah.